quite clear why I'm bringing this motion tonight. There has been some progress made in the Council's efforts to clean up the borough, but some very big issues do remain. Fly tipping in private alleys has been a particular source of stress for residents for a long time, under councils of both political colours. However, it is getting worse with every passing month. Residents across the length of my ward are having trouble with this, and I have met residents right across the borough who are experiencing the same problem. What we have at the moment does not seem to be working. Some residents report fly tipping and are told no action at all is possible. Others who didn't know anything about fly tipping sent letters telling them they will be charged for the clean-up in an alley nearby. Some others are told they should engage in setting up CCTV themselves, while some are told that the council can assist in some cases. Some residents are outraged by demands for payment. Some are not necessarily against paying for a one-off clean-up charge, but are concerned because they know it won't be a one-off, that as soon as the dumping is cleared, it will start again. That, Mr Mayor, has got to change. We need to agree an approach which is robust enough to deal with the issue, while also being cost-effective. We need the consistency to ensure that the approach is followed in all cases, and that there is no confusion about what the council will and won't do for residents. Put simply, Mr Mayor, my motion calls for the following. A member-led review by the Cleaner, Greener and Safer Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who will be tasked with understanding and documenting the scale of the issue, the cost of different possible interventions, and making concrete proposals on how Thurrock should proceed. We need a very clear, I think, and unified approach to this. We need to get on the front foot and put together a plan, acknowledging what we can do and also what we can't. There is not, I think, an easy solution to this, and I don't think we can pretend that there will be. But we must take a lead in fighting the problem of fly tipping in private alleys. This blight is suffered by too many across Thurrock to be swept under the carpet, and nothing, I believe, will ever change if we do not have the ambition to try. Mr Mayor, I will wrap it up there.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, do we have a seconder?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Do we have a seconder?
I second it, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Do you want to speak now or reserve your rights?
I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank
Going
you.
to his head much.
Thank you. Now I've got some debate. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, I'm going to be supporting this motion, but I won't take up too much time. As chair of Cleaner and Greener, I'm in negotiations with officers as to bring this to on our work programme, because I think that, as the previous speaker said, this needs to be discussed, debated, and maybe ideas be put across the table as what we can do. So I've got no problem in putting it on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tolson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I cannot support the motion in its current form with the statement attached. The Clean It, Cut It, Fill It campaign has been successful, but the council only clean the areas they are responsible for, not private or unregistered land. Additionally, fly tipping is not just a problem for Thurrock, it's a national problem. What is required is a fair approach to this problem. A private landowner that has a fly tip on his property is expected to responsibly remove and dispose of the rubbish at his expense. I use a back alley each day I go to work, and there have been, over time, numerous domestic appliances placed to the side of the back alley abutting property boundaries, which I have reported. This practice has been allowed to continue for many years without the council grasping the nettle and deciding what they're going to do regarding clearance. When it was a smaller problem, with a strong approach, it may have been easier to solve. Now the problem is bigger. It wouldn't be fair to expect borough-wide residents who responsibly dispose of waste and recycle to pay more in their council tax to resolve this issue. Our household recycling centre is one of the busiest in Essex, and the council does have a bulky waste collection service available to book. What is required is a change in attitude and approach for some individuals, and how we encourage change. More recently, the council's Community Environment Development Fund has been set up and invites applications for gating of back alleys to prevent fly tipping. Residents that have already written to the council regarding the problem of fly tipping in a back alley will be written to, so they are aware there is an option for them.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Meany.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that it's high time we as a council look at this. It's been a growing problem for some time, and I think it won't hurt to at least have a look at what the council can do. One point I would make is I hope that the Cleaner, Greener and Safer Overview Scrutiny Committee don't just confine their work to alleyways. I think some of Councillor Gerrish's own residents living in places like Parsons Road and Credo Way would like to see that the committee look at what could be done about private parking areas as well, because we have many private parking areas that aren't council maintained but attract fly tipping, and it's no less of an issue for them than it is for people who live behind or alleyways behind their property. The other thing, Councillor Tolson touched on the bulky waste collection service. I have to say, in my opinion, Thurrock's charges are extortionate. In fact, out of the 14 local authorities in Essex, we're the third most expensive, or second if you compare us to one that is more expensive but they take more items. It's £30 to take away up to 3 items. If you compare that to Basildon, it's £10 for a 5 item, and Southend charge us £7.50 and then £5 per item after that. I think prevention is better than cure, and whilst there's no excuse for fly tipping, I do think some residents might find the temptation to put their goods in an alleyway overcomes the idea of paying £30. I think it's a false economy to charge that amount of money, and so if we could add that to the work programme, I think that would be a good move. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Piccolo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point is irrelevant of this motion in so much as that last year's chair of Overview Scrutiny Committee for Cleaner and Greener was in fact the proposer, and under the system that we have in place where the chairs and the vice chairs of the Overview Scrutiny Committees are made up from the opposition, they have currently the opportunity through their vice chair to have this looked at on overview and scrutiny anyway on the Cleaner and Greener Committee. So I think this could have been done without actually coming to the Chamber as a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I observed a church down the road in Orsett. They had a massive problem of tipping in the rear alleyways, which the church raised money to clear. Now, looking at the kind of rubbish that was dumped in this alleyway, I got the impression that this rubbish was coming from perhaps short-term let tenants. And I'm feeling that maybe a way forward would be for the council to encourage or enforce some way a register of rental landlords and rental agents to ensure that new tenants arriving, or indeed the landlord himself, in taking back a property, decides the best way of getting rid of all the rubbish, furniture that's been left, is just to lob it over the rear fence. And I suspect that this is what is happening. So it's either looking at some sort of council-led initiative or a code of conduct, perhaps, for these landlords and rent agents and indeed tenants, or some way of enforcing the law to ensure that the agents, when they examine the properties after the tenant's left, they make a note of what property is left in there, and then the landlord himself should get rid of that property responsibly and not perhaps have it locked over the rear fence in the alleyways. I think that way we would clear up a lot of these rubbish problems.
Thank you. Councillor Clinton.
Thank you, Mr. First of all, members have already mentioned this. It's not just alleyways, it is the communal areas and flats, it's the roads in these private estates as well. It's unfair on everybody else within the borough to have to pay for the clean-up of these. So we need to be making sure that those that are responsible will need to be cleaning it up at their cost. I'm also going to echo and second exactly what Councillor Cherry has said. I remember very recently in Grove Road, not too far from where I live, a property became empty. Within 2 days, there were beds, mattresses, and all other sundry items, both in the front and the rear alleyway. whether it be the outgoing tenant or the incoming landlord or the new person, there needs to be some kind of register so we know where there's going to be changes. But those landlords take responsibility, not by a crack of a whip from us, but by us engaging in advance to make sure they're aware that they can't just throw it over the back, they can't just throw it in the street. And if they do, they will need to pay for the clean-up. Again, why should the residents of Grove Road, including the Deputy Mayor, or indeed Manor Road, the leader of the council, pay for somebody's private dumping when it is down to them? We're also going to have to be careful about what we say and do on this. What the last thing we need is the borough's farmers coming to us and saying, hold on, you're clearing back alleyways, which are private property. You can come and clean the 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 tonnes that's just been dumped on my farmland. Again, that's a huge cost to the borough, so we need to cut that fine line between helping residents to be able to stop this from happening and, where appropriate, a proper level of cost for doing the cleaning. Again, with Councillor Manley with the bulk and collection service, I used that recently. Very good, very quick, very efficient. It was actually cheaper than getting Argos to take my old goods away than it was using the bulky service. So I obviously went for the much cheaper option using the bulky service. Obviously, it's down to OP and scrutiny to do. I hope this gets high priority on their work agenda, and anything we can do from the housing side to help with the registration of all of the private landlords in the borough, I'm sure we will throw every weight that we can behind it.
Thank you, Councillor Gethiel. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to thank the Councillor for bringing this motion this evening. Interested to see what the review is obviously going to bring, of course we're reading what's going to happen. We'll be supporting this. It's a bit surprised actually this hasn't been mentioned, I think, other than Councillor Solson's remark, but I think it's quite right. But we do thank them for all the hard work they do. They do an amazing job every day for us, and I think their thanks is deserved. Again, similar to Councillor Solson, I'm very surprised by the statement which is attached to the motion, suggesting that Clean It, Cut It, Put It's not working, when we know that he's doing a fantastic job across this borough. More potholes are being filled every week, more grass is being cut, more litter is being picked up, and alongside that there's enforcement taking place, and I've got those who wish to litter, and obviously what this motion is trying to state as well, those who flight it. So, you know, again, I don't really like the fact that you're kind of disregarding Clean It, Cut It, Put It, because that's not the case at all. Flight tipping is an issue, we all know that, it's an issue across the entire borough, it's an issue across the entire nation as well, so it's not just subject to Thurrock, it's taking place across the country as well. But I do think there's an air of caution as to what we do say, which has already been echoed this evening. Again, we don't want to get to the point where we're almost saying the council's responsibility now to every single private piece of land in this borough, because again, the cost will be phenomenal. And obviously it's about prevention as well, making sure we're cracking the whip on those who are wanting to try and do this flight tipping, and making sure enforcement is there, they're getting fined, and obviously they get enforced to clean it up as well. And obviously as well for the taxpayer, we're not going to be paying twice in relation to clean up of this, which obviously would be the case for that. Now, the only other thing I wanted to say in relation to this is I am a bit surprised as well, but the former chair of Clean and Green didn't actually bring this up in his year of being chairman of that committee, when if he was so aggrieved by what was going on and attacking Clean and Cut It, Put It, then perhaps he should have brought it up then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Redson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to take this on a little bit wider. I think we should be looking at where our amenity site is in Buckingham Hill Road. We should look, that's probably not adequate at the moment, should be somewhere nearer the west of the borough as well, so somebody can get. Basildon at the moment has got a pickup system that runs on a Saturday 9 till 12, which picks up electrical items. I think we did it once in our borough when we gave an amnesty to anybody who wanted to get rid of electrical goods. Perhaps it's something that we can look at for people to get rid of something that they want to get rid of at that time, and if it's just 9 to 12 on a Saturday, perhaps that's something we can look at. We need to look at the bigger picture. I don't think we're going to stop fly tipping. I know in my ward, if I see it, we get rid of it, but it's a problem that we're encountering all over the borough, so we need to do something a little bit different. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Little.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this subject, but I think we as councillors can do an awful lot as well, because I know in my own ward, I often go around and you'll see the odd fridge or the odd washing machine at the end of someone's drive. why have you left it there? Oh, we hope the travellers or someone will pick it up. And I know this happens a lot, and I will often knock on a door and say, no, because they'll only take out the bit they want, and then they'll fly tip it. And I think a lot of us could look at that, and if you see the old fridge or whatever left out for opportunists, please, ask people not to do it. And I think we have to make sure that when residents do get waste contract people to come and move it, you often see it on Facebook, oh, anyone know who can take so-and-so away? I always put, please check they've got a waste transfer licence, because otherwise it will end up, usually up in my ward, in some of the rural lanes. So I think there's a lot each councillor can do as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now invite Councillor Karen to speak.
And I will stay this time, Mr Mayor. So, obviously, I'm seconding this motion. I'm very proud of it, and I think it will make a difference if we get cross-party support on this, because the key point for me from this motion is the innovation, looking at innovative ways of working together to tackle this problem, because fly tipping is a blight on our borough, and there are issues around fairness. But what we really need from this is consistency, because I personally know from working in forums in my ward along with my other two fellow councillors for Greater Riverside, we are often encountered by people who get varying responses from council about who's responsible for this, that and the other. And I just think if we can have a group working together through the committee, we can look at ways to make it more consistent, because ultimately the first problem is that it's dumped in the first place, but the second thing we need to work at is that we can all work together so that there's a consistent approach. And I believe if we all back this motion, that's what we're heading for, a lot of consistency, so our residents know where they stand and can get redress when fly tipping blights their lives. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Gerrish, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll try and be brief. I'll thank all of the members there for their contributions and support on the issue. And I'll associate myself with a lot of the suggestions that were made there. I think those are good and very positive contributions. I'd add, maybe in clarification, that my statement on Clean It, Cut It, Fill It is that despite the Clean It, Cut It, Fill It programme, fly tipping continues to be a huge problem in Thurrock. I don't think that's a particularly kind of controversial statement to make or an unreasonable observation, and I think it's partly why we are having this conversation today. So other than that, Mr Mayor, I do hope for all party support on this, and let's get on with looking at how we can make our borough a clean place. Thank you.
Thank you. All members in agreement with the motion? Those in favour of this motion? Take it as carried.